is the song talking to God and like talking about our contrast between like what we think about God and the reality of God, or like, yeah, what's the story and what's the message of the
Yeah,
song?
I mean, there's a lot of different stances in there in terms of if it's being facetious, if it's being direct, or if it's being, you know, because a lot of times what I'll do is I'll say one thing, but it's said in a sarcastic manner, you know, in the songs. And so a lot of times I think I started writing that song from a place of being really, really frustrated and grieved by just this modern thing, especially in church world, where we're very much known by what we're against versus what we're for. And our battle isn't with the powers of darkness. A lot of times it's with different beliefs within the Christian faith. And it almost feels unattainable to please Christians within your own belief, worshiping the same God, because it's like, oh, are you a Christian? Oh, yeah, I'm a Calvinist. It's like, oh, okay,
I'm
okay.
better than you.
Yeah. It's like, are you a Christian? It's like, yeah, I'm Catholic. It's just like, it's never a yes. Yes, I follow Jesus. And then sometimes it is, you meet great people, but I think there was probably 6 months straight I just felt really, really irritated about how everywhere you went in comment sections, there's no everyone. If you believe something different, or something that you say something just doesn't make sense to someone else, there's a false doctrine. It is false prophet, a false teacher, a heretic. And so the frustration kind of came from like a lot of just the modern day Christian faith and comment sections on everything was just this and it was just almost like I said, it was like Christians were fighting with Christians when they're fighting with darkness. And and so that's what made me want to start it. And then, like always, my frustrations with others make me realize that I'm the exact same. And so I felt frustrated in that, I started to realize I'm like this is man, I bet they'd be called Jesus. I bet they would call Jesus a heretic. And I bet I bet Jesus would be a false prophet. And I'm like, oh wait, that happened. It was the Pharisees. And all these things. And then I'm just like, wait, crap, would I be one?
Yeah.
Right.
Because I started to realize I'm like, oh, I'm the exact same. I'm like, I am so quick to jump the gun on other people. And so a lot of it was a lot of my songs are me voicing my frustrations to God and then being like, oh, and I'm the same. If you walk into their home, if you walk into our home, and it was like, if you walk into my home, because it's just like, it's so much of like, I just would get so frustrated with the current state of Christianity that I would start writing a song about it, and then I'd be like, oh, there it is. That's me.
Yeah, it's kind of like that when you read the Bible and you're like, I know this happens a lot with Israel. You'll see Israel doing a bunch of dumb things, and God's like, stop doing this. And then it can often be like, these guys just, how many times they got to be told what to do?
Yeah.
And then you're like,
dumb.
And then, then they're like, you guys are idiots. And then you're thinking about yourself in reflection and like, God, how does this apply to me? And then you're like, oh, I'm the idiot. I get it. I see.
I'm like, cool. I'm like, cool. That's for sure me. That's for sure us, It was just like, so that song was very much born of like, conversations, frustrations, fears that I would be a Pharisee if this all happened again, which I mean, like it won't, but like if it all was to happen, exactly how it happened right now, where would I be? And I think when I was writing it, it was just this realization of like, oh, I don't think I'd be one of the good guys. And so it was just, if you walked into my home and you made your glory known, would my tears soak your feet, or would I crucify you? And I'm just like, I really don't know. And that is really terrifying that I don't know. And I don't know how to know. Like, I don't know how to change what my reaction would be. And so the chorus was just the invitation, would just defend my mind, Don't let me be so brave that I ignore you, or don't let me be too smart for you, in the sense of like, and I mean smart in a facetious way. I don't mean like,
right.
I'm far too grown for this. And so basically my whole thing with that song was just, hey, if it's childish to need you, let me be the newest born infant of all time. And then teach me how to learn your way. And so that was basically that song. That's
amazing. And I think that's something that's like so key to keep on the forefront of our minds, because like we love theology and philosophy. Like I consume, well, Derry consumes more philosophy content than I do. He knows Derry's a genius when it comes to philosophy, but yes, he is. He won't say it, but he's really educated in it. But it's just like, it's so interesting, and theology is so interesting, and knowing these big theological terms and where they come from and the verses that back them up, how it works. And I think they're noble efforts to try to understand God. I think pursuits. Anytime you're studying the Bible to try to know God, you're doing theology, right? Because theology is just a study of God. It's when you get the knowledge that becomes like
pride. Then
right. And like I've been mulling on this for like a couple of weeks now, like where Paul says, if I have all wisdom and all gifts and I speak in all tongues and all people listen to me, but I don't have love. He says two things. He says, I am nothing and I have nothing. And like Paul, of anyone in his day in the Christian community, besides maybe Peter and James, had the most to boast about. He talks about that too in Corinthians. He's like, do I need a reason to boast? He's like, if anyone has a reason to boast, it's me. He's like, you guys don't understand my accolades. And he lists his accolades. And he talks about all the ways he suffered for Christ in another area. He's like, I have the rights to boast. And he's like, but if I don't have love, I'm nothing. It doesn't matter. It's futile. And that's where that comes from. And like staying as a child and, and receiving the kingdom of God as a child. Jesus says, like, unless you become one of these, you cannot enter my kingdom. Right. And to walk like a child and just like have that childlike faith. And I don't think that means like, because children aren't very smart usually. It's the way things. I don't think it means like staying willfully ignorant, but it means staying in that place of wonder and awe and amazement of who God is.
When we gain so much knowledge and we get like that pride that starts to infect you, it's almost like we become like spiritual gatekeepers almost, and we like we're the ones that allow people in. That's why we always like. That's why we always like say, oh, I'm a this label, or I'm a this and this and this thing. I agree with like this kind of theology. And if you don't agree with that, like you're not as good of a Christian, or your value as a Christian is different now. Instead of, like you said, just loving our brothers and sisters in different denominations and across different platforms for who they are, and like for their love for Christ and not their actions to speak.
That's great. It's like, are you a Christian? I'm part of the elect.
I've
been chosen.
We have a number of